Good afternoon. This is an excited crowd. There's a nice little murmur going on as people are greeting each other and seeing faces they haven't in a while, as well as seeing some brand new faces. We are so excited to have you here. I am Pastor Betty Johnson-Sohm. I am the current pastor at Mount Kisco. And for a few of you who know my history, I was here 50 years ago as a child living with the pastor's family for 2 years as a high school student. So I was delighted when I was told that I was coming back to this community 50 years later as the pastor, and luckily nobody here remembered me from then, so I wasn't treated like the kid that I was. And that was good news. Again, we are so thankful that you are here. I have nothing to say except to say that we have the Porter family. The Porters followed the Bartons, and Shirley Porter was the archivist for the New York Annual Conference. She is also a great historian. She will be our keynote speaker, but Ross is going to come up and invite some other people to come up and greet us and say hello in the meantime. So Ross, if you will step up here. Ross Porter was Willett Porter's son and a historian in his own right. Thank you. There you go.
I'll be right back. She started to cry when she heard my name mentioned. Thank you, Pastor Betty, and thank you all for coming. This is a great occasion. We're very excited. 200 years of Methodism in Mount Kisco. I'm going to have to change a slide up there. I forgot to do it. Oh, I'll get it after. Oops, careful. So as mentioned, Shirley Porter is going to be the keynote speaker. She has great knowledge of not only the church, but because the church has been in the community for so long, it's all intertwined with the village, with the present village and town of Mount Kisco. So I just want to try to give you an idea of the gravity of 200 years. So I want you to just we're going to take a few minutes and we're going to go back to 1824. So just think about it. It's 1824. There's no church building. It's probably farmland right here. Just to give you a historical aspect of 200 years ago, 1824. It was 48 years since the Declaration of Independence was signed. Lewis and Clark expedition was over 18 years ago. Abraham Lincoln was 15 years old in 1824. And in 1824 presidential election, John Quincy Adams became the 6th president of the United States. And Westchester County population at the time was approximately 28,000, which sounds like a lot, but it's over 900,000 now, so that kind of gives you an idea. Also, if you were waiting to turn a switch on, to turn the lights on, in 1824 you'd have to wait 55 years for the light bulb to be invented. And Mount Kisco did not exist. You have to wait 51 years till the name Mount Kisco was used. So it gives you an idea of 200 years. It's a really amazing feat. Myself, being a Methodist all my life, through my mother and father, and being in Mount Kisco since 1973, we love the town and we love the church. And as mentioned, we're so happy that everybody's coming to celebrate that with us. So now, we're back in 2024, all right? We don't want to leave anybody behind. tomorrow is the date of when the church was incorporated. It was incorporated in somebody's house with other church members, because at the time, the closest church for Methodism was in Armonk. It's only 10 minutes away, but you can picture a horse and buggy ride down there. It was quite a ride. So right about where Bear Burger restaurant is right now, within, I'm guessing 100 feet of that building was the house where they signed the papers to incorporate it. So that brings us to today. The town has gone through many different names. If you pulled up, you noticed that there was a banner. It said 200 years, celebrating 200 years of Methodism in Mount Kisco. So we put the banner up, and I got my mother for church. We pulled up, and we're parked right out in front of the church. And I pointed over and I said, "What do you think of the banner?" She looks over, and this fast, she said, "It's wrong." And I knew what she was talking about, because at the time, this was Newcastle. But if you went back about 30 years, it was North Castle. But at some time, it became Newcastle Corners. There was a Kirbyville. There was a Kisco Depot eventually, and the banner would not hold all that. So you're going to see in a few minutes, up on top, it's going to say Celebrating Methodism and Ministry in Newcastle / Mount Kisco. So now she has forgiven me after that. So I would like to welcome all of you, but I want to welcome a few specific people. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to welcome the individual and ask them if they would like to come up and say a few words. They're more than welcome to. So I'm going to start off with the mayor of Mount Kisco, Michael Sindrich. I forgot to ask if you wanted to say something. Yes, anybody who is coming up here, be very careful getting out of the pews.
Much of what I wanted to say this morning or this afternoon, Russ has covered, and I'm sure Ralph Vigalotti will cover some of the historical issues that are out there. But I have to say, Pastor Betty, Mrs. Porter, Russ, I see your father. Every time I speak to you, every time I look at you, we'll take away the beard. I think about Will and what he did for this village. So, and Ross is part of my fraternity. It's called the United States Marine Corps. So, stand up. The village of Mount Kisco is here and well represented, not only to congratulate, but also to celebrate with you 200 years of bringing the Methodist religion to the village of Mount Kisco. With me today is the Deputy Mayor, Teresa Flora, our trustee, Angie Guerrera, and also my wife, a lifelong resident of the village, Linda. Part of the history that I found fascinating, and up until 1978, Mount Kisco was Newcastle. When we became the $3 word coterminous, and so we were part of Newcastle up until 1978. And The one thing that I garnered from your email you sent to me was that in 1791, that Newcastle split from Northcastle. And what's even more exciting and maybe condescending is that in 1817, there was a great revival, according to your words, not my words. And the great revival was that the area was known for drunkenness, gambling, horse racing, cockfighting, shooting matches, and who knows what else. So I'm just going by the assumption that in the next 7 years, the winds of the Holy Ghost started coming through Mount Kisco. And what the Holy Ghost brought to the village was charity, joy, happiness, and all the attributes of good people. And that was the beginning of religion as we know it today in the village town of Mount Kisco. Wasn't the first church. We had what I called, and Ralph inspired me on this, Vigalotti, is the Prairie Church, I called it, where the cemetery is now. And that church was founded somewhere around, I'm going to say 1750, became a hospital. So maybe the drunkenness and the gambling and whatever else, that was part of, it could have been Rochambeau's troops that didn't want to go back to France, or the Redcoats, who now were realizing freedom, and they decided to stay here. But I don't think it was the indigenous people of what was to become Mount Kisco. So in any event, your history is profound. We'll be celebrating our 150th anniversary, and we're not celebrating a building. We're celebrating people. We're celebrating the people that brought the religion, the Methodist religion, to the village town of Mount Kisco. So congratulations. I have a proclamation here. I'm not going to read, but I'm just going to make sure you know that as the mayor of the village town of Mount Kisco, I'm proclaiming tomorrow, Monday, December 16th, United Methodist Church Day in the village of Mount Kisco, and I hope all residents will join in me in celebrating this significant achievement and your dedication to the betterment of our community. And upon reaching this milestone, a significant milestone. And Pastor, if you would like to join us tomorrow evening, or Ross, or both of you, and if you would like to do the invocation as we start our meeting, you're welcome, and I will read the proclamation into the record in public. So thank you for inviting me. On behalf of the village again, congratulations. And if I can say it as a layperson, God bless you all.
Thank you, Mike. I'm hoping the drunkenness part is left out of the proclamation. I'd like to introduce Erica Pierce, who is our county legislator.
So I have a whole new idea for what Mount Kisco was back in the day after the mayor shared all that. I'm so thrilled to be here. I live in Bedford, so right up the road. I have been in this building many, many times, though never in this part of this building. And it's because this congregation in this building is central to so many good organizations and many good works supporting our community members here. And clearly, that is part of the history and the DNA of this congregation. And now we can add cleaning up drunkenness and all sorts of other stuff to the list. And we put together a proclamation for the church, and we are really hoping that we got the history right. And I'm looking forward to hearing the program, and hopefully I won't be jumping out of my seat going, oh no. But any corrections we need to make, we're happy to make. I was thinking, as you were talking about the Mount Kisco and the history of Mount Kisco and the coterminous town village aspect, at the Board of Legislators, so once upon a time, we met in Bedford. Go back in time, Bedford was one of the main seats of Westchester County, Mount Kisco not very far from there at all. And then eventually it moved to White Plains. And we have this beautiful meeting room, and on the backdrop of the beautiful meeting room is this big wooden sculpture which has all of the town names for Westchester County on there. And then they had to squeeze in Mount Kisco because Mount Kisco was added after the fact. And so every time I sit in that meeting room, which is roughly every other week, I look up to that and I smile because that is part of the history here. And so much like the banner that couldn't fit Newcastle, we had to in White Plains make space so that there was room for Mount Kisco to be in that wonderful backdrop in the back of our room. So Monday is going to be a very busy day for the church because it is also going to be the United Methodist Church of Mount Kisco Day in Westchester County, which means that the church's name will be on the Jumbotron opposite the county center, keeping with another historic landmark in Westchester County. I'm so thrilled to be here. Congratulations. Timing this with the year that we're looking at celebrating Mount Kisco's history, just such wonderful connection. And so thank you for everything you've done and for all these years for the community and what I know this congregation will continue to do and be for this community. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Erica. We have from the Mount Kisco Historical Society, Ralph Vigliotti, the president.
Good afternoon. I want to say good morning for some reason, but good afternoon. It's wonderful to be here. The Methodists have been in Mount Kisco for 200 years, the longest establishment of great people in the village. Many of the early Methodists really were the leaders that brought us to where we are today, whether it was the Carpenter family, F.D. Gorham, who donated the fountain for Kisco, Chief Kisco, and it goes on and on, all of those early settlers here. To give you a little idea of the population, during 1825, all of Mount Kisco pretty much was in this location of town, and the mayor had mentioned it, Kirbyville, which is down by Ben and Jerry's, and Newcastle Corners, which is really 172. This was the center of town until the train came through in the 1850s. I want to just spend a couple of minutes. Our guest speaker, Shirley Porter, has been, for the Historical Society, very, very important. She has done some wonderful things in trying to create, not create the history, but write the history of the church and the people of the church that brought us to where we are today. So there are two very nice books that Shirley wrote, okay, and it really outlines the history very, very well. Many of you may not know, but the Methodist Church, this church with the parsonage, is on the National Register of Historic Places, and that's really a big deal. It's beyond New York State Register, it's the National Register. So that's pretty special. And Shirley had worked on that. I did, and it's just a wonderful time just to share a few things about our guest speaker. And Shirley, I thank you for all that you've done for Eagle Scouts that have come through the Methodist Church over the last almost, for the last 40 years anyway, but we are in a celebratory motion of 101 years, I believe, that we had Boy Scouts come through here. And Shirley was very, very helpful with those Eagle Scouts that wanted to know a little bit more about history to get their projects going. Shirley was also very an important part of the Rochambeau, Washington marker, getting that in place back in the 80s. She has done extensive research, and I have on a couple of my projects, personal projects. We had a couple of date days last year in which Shirley brought me to the church, and I have to say, the Mount Kisco United Methodist Church has one of the finest archival collection, okay, as far as organizations within the village. Binder by binder by binder, we were able to find stuff that even the archives, the Mount Kisco Historical Society archives, didn't have. We do now, thank you. But those are the kinds of things that bring a community together, such as the Methodist Church, folks getting involved with your own history and bringing the history together for the next generation and the next generation so we can see where we've come from. But again, congratulations to the Methodist Church. 200 years is a long time. The first census, 1885, 200 people in Mount Kisco. So when we talk about 1825, I have no idea how many people were here. Some came up from North Castle and Newcastle as members of the church, but sparse farms everywhere you looked throughout the village town of Mount Kisco. From Moore Avenue, the Moore family farms, all the way through. And then, of course, we had the church that offered so much to the community. So thank you. It's great to be part of this.
Thank you, Ralph. We do have some pastors among us who would like to say a few words, and I think we're going to start off with former pastors of the Methodist Church. Now, I'm going to introduce both of them at the same time to come up and see who gets here quicker. But you need to stay standing so you know how long it takes for a pastor to preach a sermon. So I'd like to first start off with the elder, meaning he was here a long time ago, back in the 1990s, Pastor Bill Fole. And also Pastor Parker Prout, who was in the 2000 teens. So if you both want to come up and...
Good to see you, Bill. Good to see you. Bill and I see each other now and again, and give a plug. We're fellow Trinity Bantams, having graduated from Trinity in Hartford, and I can certainly say that this is a wonderful, happy occasion. It really is. And when I found out that they were going to have this. Milestones that are as meaningful as this are just so special. And it's hard to believe that I've been gone for 6 years and have had 2 other assignments. Thus is the life of the itinerant Methodist pastor. But the time here, I was welcomed as a first-time pastor back in 2015. And before I was actually even licensed. And this congregation gave me a loving embrace, gave me a lot of patience, yanked my chain a little bit, and helped me learn my craft as a young pastor, or at least as a pastor who was light on experience. So the congregation here and all that it means to the people here now and all that it means to the people over generation after generation is extremely special and dear to my heart. So congratulations, and it's an honor to be here today.
Hi. It's hard for me to believe that it is going on 25 years since I left the ministry of Mount Kisco. And what a blessing it has been for me. And I confess that being here at the 175th anniversary and asking and being blessed by Shirley's willingness to do a updated and second version of her history was a gift in knowing the stories and the journeys that got us here. I may have, at some point in the journey, known some variety of story about each of the stained glass windows that has a name underneath it. I'm not sure that that is true. But, you know, the older I get, the better I was. And the stained glass obviously has a variety of beauty and witness that continues on and makes part of this space so special, even as I think back in the years that I was here. But it also offers for me another witness in recognizing that not knowing the stories of even persons who are so prominent on the stained glass windows, the number of people that have been a part of this fellowship over the course of 200 years, whose names we do not know, whose stories we do not know, but they're known to God. And God has worked in and through them, and the blessings and impact upon this community and so much further is an inspiration. It draws me into a sense of awe. I have a son who's a Marine, and so I honor the service of the Marines as they recognize the task that sometimes is not one that anybody really wants to do. He would say to me whenever his CO would ask him, how's it going? And he would say, living the dream, sir. And yet that is part of what it means to be a Christ follower, is to recognize that some days it's easy, and we can say, yay, God, thank you so much for the blessings, and the light shines through us, and we go, don't we look good? And there are other days when it's not like that. It's harder in the trenches. We may be loving somebody who's having some struggles with alcoholism or gambling or whatever it is, and Jesus doesn't say to them, sorry, no soup for you, and that's why the church is here and has been here. And so I'm blessed to be a part of that story. I'm so grateful for your current pastor, who is a blessing to me, and for the journey that we have shared. So thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Bill and Pastor Parker. Pastor Parker is now a grandfather as of 2 weeks ago. The next person is not a former pastor of the church. He is a pastor now, but when he was here, he was a youth leader. Pastor Tim Wagner, here's Tim. He's from the Croton Falls Community Church.
I could tell you stories about Betty, but I'm not going to. I'm a pastor because of this church. I was raised Missouri Synod or Misery Synod Lutheran Church. We wouldn't have it any other way. But this church opened up their youth fellowship not only to Methodists, but to the entire community. And under Reverend Barton and then under Pastor Porter, I found my formation to become a pastor. It was no difference me not being a member and my parents supporting this church. They were Lutherans and they remained Lutherans. My parents knew that I was serious when I would ride my bike here on Sunday mornings. I wasn't going to the Lutheran church. And my dad realized that he didn't want me riding my bike from Bedford, so he would drop me off at the hospital and I would walk down. This church had youth advisors, Ken and Linda Winslow. They were transformative to so many people in this community. And so sometimes when you're in ministry, you think you're doing the Methodist thing, but actually you're doing Jesus' work. And for me, I can only be so grateful to this church. I've watched it. I drive by it all the time. I see there's a new cross here. When I was here and I worked here for 2 years, it was the bicentennial of the United Methodist Church, and we had a red, white, and blue banner that I helped create there. And we had Circuit Rider from the balcony came down on a little rocket with a puppet to teach the young people. So all I can tell you is I am who I am because of this church, and I am eternal grateful for that. The Mount Kisco United Methodist Church and the Bedford Hills Church, which preceded when I was here, just have a very, very important part in my formation and my ministry. While I am an American Baptist pastor, but now I'm an American Baptist pastor with a Moravian background, because I never fit any molds, I just want to thank you for having the courage to be a welcoming congregation, to welcoming the young people from Fox Lane and from Horace Greeley, and to being an open church that you are. God's blessings and God's peace. I know there's lots of work to do. I know there's lots of challenges. But keep up the good work. God is still God, and we have lots to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Tim. I'd like to introduce the rabbi from Bet Torah. Pay no attention to the program. He is Aaron Brusso.
It's an honor and a privilege to be here as your neighbor down the street. I'm the rabbi at Bet Torah, just 100 yards away. We are celebrating this year our 75th anniversary. So when I got your invitation, I thought, okay, we really are the new kid on the block. But it's an honor to celebrate these anniversaries with you. I also want you to know that you are the answer to the New York Times clue, the place where the rabbi buys his pumpkin for Halloween. But there is deep work that we do together. The Torah reading, the Bible reading that we read yesterday in our synagogue had to do with Jacob and Esau, brothers who had a rocky start, difficulty understanding what it was to see each other, thinking and believing that the way to get to a better place was by using each other as opposed to appreciating each other. And then years later, they see each other, and Esau says to Jacob, to see your face is to see the face of God. And this is an understanding that in order to get somewhere higher, to connect with God, we cannot circumvent people, we cannot use people, we have to see and appreciate people. And we get to do that sacred work together through the Interfaith Food Pantry, and seeing and realizing that regardless of who an individual is, there's a need that we can help them fulfill, and to see and appreciate the full humanity of that person. It is an honor and a pleasure to do that work with you. May we continue to do it for many years to come. Happy anniversary.
Thank you, Rabbi Aaron. I'd like to also introduce pastor from the Lutheran Church of the Resurrection, Nicole Schwal.
Hello, and it is a joy to be here with you today. Congratulations. I am from the Lutheran Church up the road that way. We're not miserable up there. We're very joyous. We welcome you anytime. I also have a pumpkin relation to this church because when people say, I'll say, oh, I'm at the Lutheran church, and people say, oh, is that the one with the pumpkins out front? Because I say, no, we're further up the road. But it has been, since I have been here, such a joy and honor to do work with this church. I think that in these days and times especially, none of us can be in silos. We just can't be in silos as people of faith. And so I have enjoyed all of the people who have been willing to come outside of their silos, and by that I mean their own buildings where we tend to entrench and work together in so many different ways to shine our light in this community. We do that through the Interfaith Food Pantry, as Aaron mentioned, through the Emergency Shelter Partnership, through different vigils and prayer things we do in town. And it is really important work. So I appreciate and I thank you for the work that we have and do together. I look forward to many more years of working together. And congratulations on this special day.
I'd just like to make one recognition. He didn't want to come up, but we thought it was an honor to have him here. He is Ren Hillis. There's another Hollis in the crowd. It's not him. Ren Hillis. Ren is currently the New York Annual Conference of the United Methodist Church archivist. And sitting to my left is a former New York Annual Conference of the Methodist Church archivist. So it was very nice of you to come. Thank you, Ren. Now, I think I covered everybody. Anybody else want to come up and talk? Yeah. So, as mentioned, my mom, very honored that she's here, and also honored that she's my mother. We spoke, and she came up with got all of this off the ground for the 200th year anniversary. And as mentioned, tomorrow is the date, so we thought, what a wonderful time to have this. So, bringing my mother up, I came up the ramp here in her little go-kart that she has. And I said, okay, I'm going to bring you back down, bring you there, and then bring you back up when you're ready. She goes, no, I think I'm going to stay here the whole time. It was a rocky road going up here. So without further ado, I'm looking very forward to this, and I know all of you are too. Shirley Porter.
Hello. I don't have much to say after all. A lot's been said in my talk, but that's good. Let me say in the beginning, when we came in 1973 to meet with the Pastor Parish Relations Committee, Madeline Hokinson was a member, and she said, now Shirley, you don't have to be nervous. We're your friends, not knowing that I have essential tremor and had it more than half my life. And we did have a support group in this church when I lived in Mayapack. So I have another question. Am I in the town of Bedford or Newcastle? There was a story. If you don't understand what the preacher's sermon, that it's because he's in the town of Newcastle and the congregation's in the town of Bedford. But I did find out recently that the town line goes through the front yard of the church, so that kills that story. When you get older, like I am, a lot of the pieces of the puzzle begin coming together. It's like you're looking down and seeing things in a different way. Well,